The reality is that if you're attracting difficult people into your life, mean people, what if I told you it's not your fault? And what if I told you that this all started in your childhood and that there's actually a way you can break free? In fact, in this video, I want to explain how trauma gets trapped in your nervous system, how it influences who you're drawn to, but most importantly, how you can heal, break free of these patterns, and finally attract safe, loving, reciprocal relationships into your life. So, that being said, grab a drink, grab a snack, and let's dive in. For those that don't know me, my name is Michele. I'm a survivor myself of childhood trauma. I'm a trauma-informed coach, a somatic experiencing practitioner, and the founder of the School of Transformation, where I help people learn how to embody everything I teach on my channel. So if you're struggling to apply what you're learning, come check out our live Zoom meetings. There is currently a 40% off sale good through January 15th, or until the maximum number of members is reached. So remember, if you have a pattern of attracting mean or difficult people in your life as an adult, the reality is that everything began in childhood. So let's take a walk back to your childhood. Imagine you're a little kid and your home is like a garden. If that garden was filled with love and safety, your roots grew deep and you learned to trust that people are kind. But if you had a childhood like mine, your home wasn't like a garden, it was like a minefield where any wrong, accidental move could set off shame, blame, criticism, and emotional neglect or abuse. And so as we're growing in an environment like that, those childhood experiences in our home, they shape how we feel about ourselves, they shape how we feel about other people, and they shape how we show up in relationships, which often keep the patterns that we saw in childhood alive in our adult life. So what I mean by that is if in childhood you didn't feel safe, the relationships didn't feel safe, you weren't safe to be yourself, to be authentic, to be imperfect, right? To be a child. You weren't even safe to have needs. Then what happens is instead of developing personality traits and characteristics, we wind up getting stuck in our trauma responses, which are fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And so as a result of growing up in that chaos and our nervous system being activated all the time, we grow up with an overactive trauma response. We are now stuck in our fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, and the alarm system in our body is scanning for danger 24/7. Now, here's the tricky part. To me, it would make sense that my nervous system, after living those lived experiences in childhood, would actually search for things that were familiar and be like, ooh, don't go there. But that's not how the nervous system works. This is the hard part to understand. It's actually the opposite. It's almost like our nervous system is scanning for the familiar. And our nervous system actually feels more comfortable in a painful familiar than a peaceful unfamiliar. It's almost like, imagine if you're a radio station. Okay, just bear with me for a second. Just imagine that. What has happened is that your trauma has turned you into a frequency of chaos and pain. And so without realizing it, we keep attracting people who broadcast on that same frequency. That's why narcissistic, mean, or difficult people often feel strangely magnetic. It's like they match what your nervous system learned to expect. Okay, so along with our nervous system being hijacked and now wired for survival, on top of that, our subconscious beliefs play a part in our attracting difficult, mean, or narcissistic people as well. Through our relationships when we're children, through those relationships, our belief system gets created. So for example, if I have a parent that gets angry every time I have a need, like to eat or drink, then I create the belief my needs are bad. I'm selfish if I think of myself. Or if I have to do things for my parent to make them happy, otherwise I'm ignored, rejected, abandoned, then I learn I have to earn love. I have to work really hard for it. It's conditional and it's dependent on me doing the right thing in order to receive it. If I'm just being me, as children do, right? They are just themselves. That's all they know how to do. And I'm being me and I'm being criticized. I learn there's something wrong with me. I'm flawed. If I'm taught that I'm responsible for my parents' feelings, then I internalize the belief if somebody else is angry, it's my fault and I have to do something about it. So, can you see how these beliefs in childhood can get so ingrained inside of us and those beliefs get kicked on in our relationships just because we become adults and maybe we leave home? Maybe we even either are no contact with difficult or abusive family members, or we're very boundaried with them. Regardless, until we update our subconscious beliefs, the same beliefs that were created in childhood are the ones that are running the show in our adult relationships as well. The crazy thing about those old subconscious beliefs is that we may not even be aware that they're even there and that they're running the show. It's almost like they're invisible scripts running in the background, like background music. And here's the hard part. Our brains are designed and wired to prove these beliefs true. And so, if deep down I believe I'm unworthy, then my brain is going to look for evidence in the outside world to confirm it. And so I might unconsciously attract people that treat me that way, people that criticize, control, and use me. It's the brain's way of saying, see, I told you, this is who you are. This is what you believe about yourself. And here's the evidence that backs it up. Now, I want to be honest with you and let you know that when I first learned this, it took me a while for my brain to register it. I was like, how could my belief, how could I be in some way, shape, or form also contributing to the fact that I keep on attracting these people? I thought for sure, like, I'm just doing my best to be the best kind of person I can be. How am I also contributing to this pattern? And it was a bit painful in the beginning to realize that I was contributing. However, remember in the beginning when I said that when some people say, I just attract difficult people, I said it was disempowering. And the reason is because it makes you feel like there's nothing you can do to change it. And so what I realized when I finally accepted responsibility for the present, not responsibility for the abuse from my childhood. No, that was not my fault, right? But when I accepted responsibility for the present and the direction I wanted to take in my relationships and with myself, that's when we break out of that disempowered thinking that, oh, I'm just a trauma magnet or an abuse magnet, right? We break out of it and we start taking control as being the creator of our lives. You see, in childhood, it's almost like our parents gave us a pair of glasses that distorts everything we see, from how we see others and how we even see ourselves, our own self-image. And so when we have these glasses on and we're living in these unconscious, subconscious beliefs, we only notice the people that match our wounds. And we actually overlook the kind and safe people who wouldn't hurt us. Hopefully that makes sense. And so let's shift into the third reason why our childhood winds up causing us to repeat unhealthy relationships in our adult life, attracting mean, critical, or narcissistic people in our adult life. And it has to do with the fawn trauma response. In order to survive the painful and chaotic conflicts that we had in childhood, conflicts that didn't make sense, conflicts that we were too small to know how to handle. Well, in order to survive them, our survival brain develops a strategy of fawning. We go into and get stuck in the fawn trauma response, which is a hybrid response. It's part freeze me, freeze how I really feel, freeze what I really want to say, freeze by authenticity, and we choose safety by socially engaging in a way that will make our chaotic and scary and abusive parent calm down. So in childhood, it's a very smart strategy. Since we're too small to fight, We're too young to flee and run away. So it helps us navigate a chaotic environment. The problem is that we get stuck in that fawn trauma response even when we become adults. You see, difficult people, mean people, narcissistic people, they love fawners. They see your kindness, your fear of conflict, your willingness to seek peace as an opportunity to take advantage of you. Picture this. Imagine a moth drawn to a flame. You're the moth trying to find warmth and safety in relationships, but the flame burns you every time. It's not because you're weak. It's because you were taught to ignore the warning signs. Remember, in childhood, when there was a problem, you were taught that it was your job to fix it or it was your fault all the time. And so rather than seeing your parent as the problem, which in childhood it's just too overwhelming for your nervous system to think that the person that's responsible for keeping you alive is dangerous or bad, right? So our brain doesn't even go there. It puts all responsibility and blame on self and ignores the bad behavior of the parent and says, no, it must mean I'm bad. And so as a result, we ignore those behaviors in our relationships. And instead of realizing that person's unhealthy, I need to have a boundary, we almost step up to the plate and try harder because that's what we did in childhood. That's what we had to do in childhood. So those are 3 reasons why our childhood winds up setting us up to attract difficult, mean, and toxic people in our adult relationships. And I really want to stress again, I know I already said it, but repetition for emphasis, it's not your fault that these patterns exist. It was out of your control. You were just a child and you got a raw deal. However, as an adult, we can shift into taking responsibility for our patterns in our adult life, and we can break free of the patterns that were ingrained in us when we were kids. In childhood, your nervous system was rewired with negative neuroplasticity. As an adult, you can rewire it with positive neuroplasticity. Your subconscious beliefs were ingrained in you without your conscious consent. As an adult, you now get to weed through the beliefs in your mind and remove the ones that are no longer serving you and strengthen the ones that are really more in harmony with who you really are. And that's exactly what I help people to do in the School of Transformation. I help people to learn how to get back to their authentic self, who they really were, instead of who the trauma turned them into. So if you're looking for live, affordable support, come join me live on Zoom every week as we transform together. But in case you're not able to join me live weekly, I want to leave you with these 3 tips that can start helping you to break out of the pattern of attracting mean or difficult people. Step 1 is rewiring your nervous system with somatic practices. Healing starts in the body. Trauma is stuck in the body. And as tempting as it is to try to learn our way out of it, we can't do that with our mind. We have to learn how to embody what we're learning and put it into practice on a body level. Our nervous system needs to feel what safety feels like instead of just learning what it feels like. Tip number 2 is learning how to rewrite and rewire your subconscious beliefs. Start becoming aware of the beliefs that are running your life. You might be absolutely shocked when you start realizing the beliefs that are running your life, and there's a good chance you're not even in agreement with them. If you're not sure how to find your beliefs, you can ask yourself things like, when somebody treats me this way, that means I am what? Find the I am statement that's running your life and then ask yourself, do I agree with this? If I could choose, what I am statement would I want to replace it with? And then tip number 3 is learning to set boundaries. Boundaries are your way of teaching others how to treat you. So start practicing saying no to people who drain or hurt you. And remember, a healthy person is going to respect your boundaries. Someone that gets angry or tries to manipulate you is showing their true colors. Trust what they're showing you. As a way of controlling you when you are a child, you may have been taught that boundaries are bad and unloving, but the reality is think of boundaries as a fence around your garden. They protect your peace and they should only let in people who nurture you. So, bottom line, if you've spent your whole life attracting mean, toxic, abusive, controlling, or narcissistic people, it's not because there's something wrong with you. It's because in your childhood, your nervous system has been wired for danger and it's stuck seeking that out. Your subconscious beliefs were infiltrated. And you may be stuck in a fawn trauma response. The good news is that this is not permanent. When you do the deep inner healing, then you open your life to first having a healthy relationship with yourself. And once that happens, everything on the outside changes. So don't give up. It has nothing to do with something being wrong with you. You can have healthy and loving relationships. And if you're struggling to apply this on your own, that's why I designed the School of Transformation, so that you don't have to heal on your own, but you can do so in a community with people that are on the same journey.